You're listening to
and such a short amount of time to do it in.
a Mamma Mia podcast.
Hey, it's Mia here. This week on Mamma Mia, we launched a new show, a new podcast. It's our 46th and it's called Restart. It's hosted by Madeleine West, which hundreds of thousands of you listened to when she was a guest on No Filter a little while ago. Now, I wanted to pop the first episode of her new podcast into your feed because I just think you're going to love it. And if you want to hear the rest, though, you'll have to subscribe to Restart. So wherever you get your pods, just search for Restart so that you can hear the rest of the season. It's all about what happens when you decide to blow up your life or your life gets blown up for you.
A few years ago, I was at a dinner party with my former partner and our friendship group in a beautiful home with beautiful food, beautiful wine, beautiful people. And I found myself in the middle of a heated, very passionate discussion, not about politics or religion, and it was pre-pandemic, so certainly not about COVID, about placemats. Yes, placemats. You know those things that you put under a plate, between the plate and the table? And I remember distinctly having an out-of-body experience, if you will, stepping out of that conversation and watching it play out and thinking, I am a woman of passion. I am a woman of integrity, of belief, of strong values. I am a woman who has worked so hard to get where I am, and I'm wasting my passion on a discussion about placemats. I mean, they were very nice placemats. I will give you that. They were kind of like an almost off-gold, kind of very intricately woven placemat. They'd come from a place called Fenton & Fenton, apparently. They retailed at $99 each, but in the Christmas sales you could get them at $75, yes, and so they got in 12. What a steal, what a bargain. And that led into the other things you could get at Fenton, like, do you know that you can get a moose head that you hang on the wall, but it's cruelty-free, so it's not a moose head, it's been crocheted, made out of bamboo. What? What? How is this my life? I am a woman who has experienced sexual abuse and homelessness and poverty and has striven so hard to get to where she is, and I'm talking about placemats. And in that moment, I realised I'd become a performer in my own life. I was playing a role that I hadn't even auditioned for. I don't know how I'd found myself on this set saying these words, expressing passion about something I didn't even know about and cared about even less. And that was when I knew that I didn't know who I was anymore. I didn't even know what I was passionate about anymore. But what I did know was that my relationship was over. It was time for a restart. I'm not going to try to present divorce as amicable, sweet, loving, gentle, tender. If it was any of those things, why would you get divorced in the first place? And as much as I would say it's not something you would put your worst enemy through, let alone the person you have promised to love and honour forevermore, sometimes it's necessary. Sometimes it's necessary to restart. Welcome to Restart, the podcast that proves it's never too late to change everything. I'm your host, Madeleine West. Have you ever looked around your life and thought, what next? Ever considered a sea change, a tree change, or a job change? Ever wanted to hit refresh on your whole life? Then chances are you've considered a restart. It's about making a new beginning, a revision, a renewal, if you will. One that is often necessary and always life-changing. But sometimes a restart goes beyond a new job or a new home or a new relationship. Sometimes that restart drills down into the very essence of who you are. From career to health to divorce to identity. For 10 weeks, Restart will look into why more and more women are pressing refresh on their lives and how the hell they've done it. When my world changed, nay, collapsed, 2 years ago, I found myself resetting every aspect of my life. But the biggest one, the key instigator of the restart, Well, it was the realisation that I'd become an actor in my own life. And a pivotal component of that was my relationship falling apart. And it wasn't just me. A relationship breaking down is one of the most common and traumatic reasons women hit restart. All of a sudden, it seems half the people in my contacts list have recently or are in the midst of slipping the marital noose, whether willingly or unwittingly. Why is divorce suddenly all the rage? When did separation become the new black? And what do you do once you've done it? That's what we're going to talk about today. Today on the show, we talk to Helen Thorne, a woman who thought she was making a Halloween costume for her daughter until she found a note in the jacket pocket.
I'd been with my ex-husband for about 22 years. I thought he was it forever. And then one night I was getting together my daughter's book day costume. So I picked up a blazer and I thought, oh, that'll do. I'm going with the contemporary sort of David Tennant theme.
Yeah.
And in the pocket was a love letter. And it was not from me. It was from somebody else.
Plus, separation strategist and lawyer of 25 years, Nikki Parkinson is going to share some practical and tangible strategies that will bring you clarity.
First thing we should do is what I didn't do, and it's looking after ourselves first. And that's difficult to do when there is so much noise. So when you can't control what is going on in our outside world, go inward. And sometimes that can be a very dark place, but it's worth it if you can stay there for a little while.
In my experience, divorce hurts. It gets dirty, vicious. It brought out the very worst in me. It still does to this day. It tore apart my world, damaged the things I held dearest, and turned love toxic. Having lived it, you wouldn't wish divorce on your worst enemy, let alone the person you once promised to love and cherish forevermore.
My marriage split up when I was 27 and I'd been married for 5 years, just over 5 years. But I got married a few weeks before I turned 22. So I got married quite young, but I was marrying my childhood sweetheart at the time, and we'd been together since year 10 when I was 15. So effectively we'd been together 7 years before we got married. So it didn't feel like it was some kind of a rush, sort of young marriage that we'd rushed into it by any means. I thought I'd been making a really sensible decision, marrying the love of my life, my best friend. And then after 5 years, it was all over and I was devastated, but I also felt very alone because I didn't know anyone else who had been divorced in their 20s. And I kind of thought that it would happen if you'd been married a long time with somebody and that you just couldn't work things out and maybe you're trying to sort out kids. And just the fact that it happened to me, it was so out of the blue and such a shock, and I felt very silly. I felt like a failure and all the emotions that you would feel. So that's why I wanted to share my story, because I thought it does happen to other people, but at the time I didn't know anyone else that it happened to.
Helen Thorne had a perfectly imperfect life. Her podcast, Scummy Mummies, is the #1 parenting podcast in the UK, where she and her comedy partner, Ali Gibson, muse on life, their kids, and their husbands. That's until Helen found a note in her husband's clothes and everything came crashing down. You and I are fellow members of what I like to call the Divorce Club, which is, kind of like Fight Club, but with a lot more Riesling and a lot less Brad Pitt, unfortunately. But could you tell me, what was your divorce story? What happened?
So in March last year, 2020, I'd been with my ex-husband for about 22 years. We met at Melbourne Uni. I'd met when I was 19. I thought he was it forever. And we got married 10 years before. And then one night I was getting together my daughter's book day costume, because that's always fun. Everyone loves book day.
Especially the night before at about 10:30 at night. That's always when you come up with your best work, in my experience.
Yeah, no, that's really relaxing. And I like it when they change their minds. So that's what happened. She decided.
And when you know that the character is never in a book, it's actually a cartoon character or a pop star.
It was Doctor Who, which is obviously that great literary.
You just need a rainbow scarf, don't you, for that one?
Yeah, so I picked up a blazer and I thought, oh, that'll do. I'm going with the contemporary sort of David Tennant theme.
Yeah.
And in the pocket was a love letter, and it was not from me. It was from somebody else. and old school shiz. And so I found out that he had been having an affair for a very long time, as the letter did reveal. And so I just felt sick, and my whole world kind of, you know, that scene in Amelie where she melts into the floor.
Yeah.
And I was like, I have no fucking idea who this man is. I don't know what my life is.
And you did
I
not
thought my
see
life
it
was
coming.
going, not at all. And so I was just in front of my daughter, and she was like, Mummy, what's wrong? And I was like, nothing's wrong. And she said, that doesn't look like nothing. And I put the letter in my back pocket, and then 15 minutes later he came home, and I said, oh, do you want to come upstairs? And he's like, yeah, why? And then I just went, good one, dickhead, it's over. And the next day he left, and he's never come. I mean, obviously he's in the children's lives and we see him once a week for that, but he's never stayed in this house ever again.
You never felt tempted to try and return, repatch?
No.
Yeah.
No, it was weird because I had been so fiercely in love with him, but also probably, if I'm really honest, more fiercely in love with marriage and being a wife. And
the
so
idea of it. Yeah.
And we'd gone through couples counselling twice. My father is a vicar and my parents have been married for 57 years. And so I grew up just thinking about like the sanctity of marriage and,
that
I
it was an
believed all the
institution and forever.
Yeah, exactly. And I took my wedding vows really bloody seriously.
Yeah.
And, it was shit times. We had small children. There's times where we didn't have money. But, I just thought, no, there's enough. There's enough there. I want to keep trying, surprise dinners and putting the romance in there. But I was pouring water into a sieve. So then all of a sudden my world collapsed and I was like, what do I do? We were 5 days away from signing a massive mortgage to renovate our house. We've been working on that for a couple of years. So none of that made sense. I was like, how can you be having an affair and planning to renovate your house if you know that there is a chance that one day, everything was a mess. And then we got locked down. And then so for 3 months, I didn't get an adult hug from, a friend. I was sort of starved of affection. But I think in a way it was this sort of hardcore heartbreak boot camp because I had to get really fucking sad. And for the first time in my life, angry, which was really confronting because, I'm a jolly, soft, pillowy, people-pleasing person. And to be confronted with anger and actually to say things like, fucking hate him. And rage and anger is very much demonized. And it's all about being best for the kids, which I always was. But I had a couple of friends actually who are psychologists who said, you have to let it out. Go into the woods, scream all the worst swears, have those nights, and it's okay to have a few nights where you blow out and smoke a whole packet of fags and drink all the white wine and just get angry. And for me, I think as a mother, you go into protective mode going, everything's fine. I can make things good for the kids. I'm just going to make it as happy as possible. But actually, that is a detriment to yourself, but also a detriment to your children. It's okay for them to see you sad occasionally.
Yeah, and I'm a big believer in that kids actually... There is no value in helicoptering our children and wrapping them in cotton wool because the reality is they're going to face trauma out there in the world. What strategies did you employ to make it possible to communicate with this person with whom you made your most precious possessions, your children?
I think some of the best advice I got was never reply straight away to text messages. And maybe not use caps as much.
That's just shouting in text.
A lot of exclamation marks. I think it's just about minimising and knowing your boundaries. And so drop-offs and pickups I had to make as quickly as possible because I was like, yep, there would be a handover or, we've got to do stuff with schools and that sort of stuff. And that's working really well.
Yes.
But I don't like having long phone conversations with him. I prefer text messages or emails and those sort of things. And that for me works. And he doesn't live very far away, so the kids can walk to his house. So there were certain things that I wanted in place that would make it easier for the kids, but also protected me and my fragility, really, because I need time to heal. I think that's really important. But it's wildly unfair, and especially when you tell the children, you have to say all the right things. We sat down and did it really well. We sat down and said, we love you and Daddy's going to live in a different house and this is what happened. But so much of you wants to yell, this is not my fucking fault. He fucked up and now all of our lives are different and harder and I've got less money and everything.
And the repercussions. Aside from all your hopes and dreams being shattered, there's just the simple fact that there can be a feeling that they get away scot-free, create all this damage, which you then have to pick the pieces up after, and they're off living their new life.
Yeah, and it's hard. But I think having that period of anger there is something good in being dignified about it, even though you're feeling really fucked off.
Absolutely.
That I did the best for my children. My children have a positive relationship with their father. He has a really lovely time with them on the 2 days a week. And I want that more than anything else for my children to feel secure and loved by both parents. And I'm really proud of that.
How do you play nice for the kids when, if you're honest, you probably want to kill that parent?
I mean, I think there's been lots of really good healing things. You know, I've got a few good angry friends.
Love an angry friend.
Oh, they're so good. They're so good. And I've written about this in the book that I've written, is that it's good to have like the Spice Girls of friends. You need a friend that will get you off your fucking ass and make you walk. Like do some exercise.
Yes.
That's really good. Have a really good stompy angry walk, or go for a class, or go for a swim, or ride your bike and swear. Have a boozy friend that you know that you can take a bottle of Prosecco in and get blind and smoke fags. Have a cry friend that will bring you a big cake and you can cry into their massive tits. Friend with big boobs is a very good thing.
So I'm just making notes
Nestle
here.
in a
Is this a prerequisite? Is there a cup size that you recommend? Are we talking about a double E?
E
or
plus. E plus, yeah, E plus. What else? And then you need one of those friends who's either like an accountant or a lawyer who goes, have you called a lawyer? What's happening with your superannuation? You know,
practical
all that sort of
spice.
stuff.
Yeah.
Nerd spice. And I think because sometimes you feel like you're too much for one friend. And I'm sure
absolutely.
anyone who's gone through that, you go, oh, God, I can't ring them up and say he's a bastard anymore. But I think if you feel like you've got friends that can do specific tasks.
Like a platter
that's
of
really
friends.
Good. But all these experiences, and divorce is the best thing that happened to me. It absolutely, apart from my children, absolutely is, because I didn't know I was this strong. I mean, I knew my friends were fucking awesome, but now they're fucking everything to me.
Yeah.
And love has presented itself in different forms. And we are so focused on romantic love, and we are so focused on being one half or an other or a wife or a partner, when you feel just as fulfilled by the love that you get from your friends and your children and your family.
So has going through the tragedy of divorce and hitting that restart button, has it given you a deeper appreciation for what you do have, for the good things in your life?
Absolutely. I mean, this is a terrible metaphor, but, if your life is a garden, it felt like he was a big old overgrown bush that was sort of shading things. And once I got rid of him, everything kind of came in full bloom. Felt like there was more light, more warmth, more everything. And I wasn't waking up every morning thinking, what mood is he going to be in today?
Oh, God, I remember that one.
Is he going to like the dinner I've cooked? I haven't done this. Or, booking holidays. Oh, he's not going to like the hotel. I just remember one day, about 3 months into the separation, I just woke up and I thought, I'm really fucking happy. This is my house. These are my children. I can eat 3 Mars bars for breakfast and it doesn't fucking matter.
Exactly.
I can paint the kitchen pink. And it was everything, I think, we use the terms like happy and sad. I think it's better saying heavy and light, because I just felt lighter in myself and everything that I did. And I didn't need approval. I didn't wince or, clench when I've made a decision.
Yeah.
I stand really tall and strong about who I am and what I do. And yes, he's part of my life in a tiny way, but God, he doesn't have that power over me
Doesn't
anymore.
dominate it anymore. You can think, well, I'd like to go for a holiday. Might just be down to the local caravan park because that's what I want to do. So on that note, is there such a thing as a happy divorce? Is it possible?
I think so. And I think there has to be some anger and pain within it for there to be separation, because I know a lot of friends who have split amicably have said it's actually harder because, it looks good on paper and you sit down and you can divide up everything equally, but the lines are blurred about, and then someone gets a new partner and then someone doesn't have a new partner or vice versa. But I think for me, you know what, I've got too little time and I want to spend that with people I love and who value me and who didn't have an affair, who didn't lie to me, who didn't betray me. I mean, I'm asking a lot. I really am.
Oh, you really are. You've set the bar way too high. I'm loving this optimism, this positivity. But God, revenge, it seems like such a good idea. Did you ever dabble? Did you ever, get your own back?
No. I mean, I've thought about it, for most days. I mean, there's many things that I would like to do, and I'm going to be really crude. When I've had some really spectacular one-night stands with young men, I think, Jesus Christ, this is bloody fucking awesome.
If he could see me now.
I thought that is a gift. I mean, it was a gift many times, but, you know, I think
It's a gift that keeps on coming, so to speak.
Oh, my God. Yeah, I just think being gloriously happy is the best revenge.
Yes.
Being successful and also not thinking about him. I think there has to be periods where you feel a bit rebellious. And I used to make lists in my head about all the things that fucked me off about him. And, you know, and that was part of the healing process, going, I'm waking up, I don't have to listen to him clearing his nasal passages in the shower or see his hair in the sink or wash his smelly, stupid, you know, triathlon onesie or, you know, like really petty stuff.
Yeah.
And I think that's really good. You know, you need that kind of anger and going, this and this and this.
And
I
being
was like, God.
specific about why you're happy to be single.
Yeah.
So how did you welcome love
my
back
God.
in?
Something I've been thinking about recently because it's been 18 months. But I think, you know, love is the next challenge and also feeling vulnerable again because, you know, one of the things I think hurt the most was I don't think I've been loved properly. And I remember that was the hardest thing to kind of face was what I thought was love wasn't. And as I said, I do feel really fulfilled with my girlfriends and all that sort of stuff. But it would be nice to kind of one day know what that feels like for someone to be totally into you. You know, I've been doing Scummy Mummies for over 8 years and Ellie Gibson is the other comedian and my wife and my best friend and she has been extraordinary. And I have to say, you know, so much of my recovery is down to just knowing that she's there for me every single day.
Yeah.
She worked so hard on the podcast when we were in lockdown. She worked so hard in just keeping me together. And I know that wasn't easy. And I did hit the booze really hard and there were times where I probably drank too much and that was always on when the kids were at their dad's.
Yeah.
And I had that, you know, as soon as he drove out of the drive on a Friday night, you know, I had a fag in the hand and a bottle of wine in the other. And it was about numbing the pain, but there was a sense of sort of rebelliousness about that. But I know that was hard for people to watch. And also no one could be with me. So I was just drinking myself silly at home alone.
But it got you through.
You know,
we need a crutch every now and then.
Yeah, exactly. But it is, as you said, it's a two-person partnership.
So if it's not
you know,
you, it's your sister, it's your best friend, it's the chick at the checkout in the supermarket.
I think so. And also when you share something so colossally awful or hard or traumatic, then that actually allows people to open up about their darkness and their trauma. And I now know things about my friends that they never would have, I don't think, told me if I'd not sort of spilled open my hard things. And I think that just sort of really solidifies and you have a bond that is stronger than anything else.
Yeah,
and
it's amazing.
It's really beautiful. And I think we're so programmed as women to be, you know, everything's fine and we're good and, you know, that'll do. I'm okay. And I think for many of us, we're not. And, you know, since coming out as single and writing the book about divorce, so many women have said, I'm not happy. And it's okay to leave a marriage because of that.
And more often than not, if you really dig down to it and you're honest, your partner probably feels the same way if it's reached that point.
Yeah, exactly.
So you've hit your restart. You're projecting like allowing love back in and rediscovering vulnerability and all that comes with it and that second marriage is going to be for love. Would you change anything looking back?
That's a really good question. But do you know what? No, because in this last year, I felt happiness. The happiness that I felt becoming single is the happiness I thought I'd get from being married. In that I just feel joyous every day and I feel love like I've never felt before.
Yeah.
So if it took my husband doing what he did, then so be it, because now I've got this new lovely life ahead of me and I get my children and the world that I want. And so, no, I think because I don't want today to change. So I can't regret anything that has come before. And I don't want to feel that. I don't want to carry that with me either.
What's the title of your book?
My title of the book is called Get Divorced, Be Happy, How Becoming Single Turned Out to Be My Happily Ever After.
Thank you so much for your time.
Thank you.
Nikki Parkinson has been where you are now. She's a divorce coach, a mother of 3, and a woman who went from divorce lawyer for over 25 years to becoming the client. please tell me, and everyone out there who might be contemplating this or is living with this right now, what are the first steps anyone should follow? Counselling, a holistic practice. What is the first thing you should do?
The first thing we should do is what I didn't do, and it's looking after ourselves first, and that's difficult to do when there is so much noise. So when you can't control what is going on in our outside world, go inward. And sometimes that can be a very dark place, but it's worth it if you can stay there for a little while. I'm a big advocate for talking to someone like me who has the experience not just in the legal system, but has been there as a client as well. So both the practical side of things and the personal side of divorce can give them a sense of hope that it's going to be okay.
Absolutely. I think it's critical to remember we all make mistakes. That's part of being human. But when you can learn from your mistakes, that makes you a good human.
For sure. And if we don't learn from those mistakes, then we can't grow. There's no growth in the person that we want to become if we just take the mistake on board. Yes, that happened. Did I learn from it? No, I'm going to repeat that.
And do you see that playing out where people end up in situations of relationship after relationship after relationship after relationship? You must see that.
So often. So often. I've got a couple of clients that
return clients.
Return clients. And as a divorce coach, you don't want to return.
No.
You don't want a return client. And that's why you've got to do the work.
Yes.
You've got to do the work, and that's different for everyone. The work is correcting the way you do things that might not serve you, the repeated patterns. The work could be making sure you drink water every hour, staying hydrated. The work could be finding joy again. What sparks the joy for us? The longer we're in a relationship, I don't know about you, but the longer that I was in my relationship, I kind of forgot who I was for a while. Like I was still Nikki, but what brought me the most happiness? And for me, it was creativity.
Oh, gosh, that is such a common theme because we sacrifice it on the altar of motherhood and relationship and plausible work options and careers as opposed to just doing what fills our soul, what fills our bucket.
Yep. And that's the work. So finding that again.
To fill your bucket.
To fill your bucket. One step at a time. Again, I think it's really important for people to recognize that just take it moment by moment. Take it slow. You don't run away from a marriage. You walk away from a marriage.
So what are the biggest mistakes that people make, aside from running straight to the lawyer?
Relying on external sources is what I see a lot.
So what does that mean?
That means filling our bucket or the gap with alcohol, drugs, sex, shopping, over-exercising, crutches. Doesn't need to be an addiction. It just means you're filling the gap with something because you don't want to feel what you're feeling. Like if you can whack that Band-Aid on and just,
swallow your emotions, dilute them, exactly.
Then the world keeps going, but it's going to catch up with you. So recognize what stage you're at and seek the help.
Is that where having a therapist on call is handy, or seeking an external third party who can kind of hear both of your voices?
It is. Our friends they're not necessarily the voice of reason. Or our family is not necessarily. They come from the right place. Their heart's very much in the right place. But are they going to really give it to you objectively? Maybe not. Sometimes that feels like an attack on our character when we're already going through something really hard and it's not meant to be. So I think relying on the external sources to give you that objective view is really important. And it could be a therapist. Compartmentalize things, okay? So we love our buckets. So you've got your emotional bucket and you've got your business side. So treat it like, and it's almost like treating your ex a bit like a business partner. You're having a business transaction. So how would I speak to my business partner? How would I communicate with that person? And there's a general rule of thumb, and anyone listening, if you can integrate this into your communication skills afterwards, it's called a BIF method. So it's brief, informative, friendly, and firm. So you're keeping your communication brief, you're keeping it informative, you're keeping it friendly. So, hi, how you going? X, Y, and Z. And you're ending it with the firm bit asking for what you want in a very clear and particular way. We remove the emotion. We're very much about one topic at a time. We're not passing blame. We're not rehashing old arguments. We're not looking about, what does my future look like? It's here and now. And what is this topic, or what is this question that needs to be answered, and how are we going to do that?
The BIF method. Brief, informative, friendly, but firm.
Correct.
That is excellent. What's a co-parenting app?
It's exactly as it sounds. It is an app where this is how you're going to communicate with your ex from now on. So there's no text messaging and there's no emails. You communicate through the app. And what I love about that is that if you get the right app, it softens the communication, because it's almost like Big Brother's watching, right? So is there someone
is there a Big Brother type figure who's monitoring what you write and go, you can't use that word, that's offensive?
No, but what happens is that any communication can be exported out into a PDF form where you read that communication, and which then can be used as evidence in a court situation. And you can do that with your text messages as well, and emails.
Of course.
But nothing can be changed. Once you send that text message, it's there. So whatever you put in writing cannot be...
It can't be edited. Once you're out of the heat of the moment.
Exactly. And it tends to soften the conflict because you know that can be... And I know that text, you can do the same thing, but there's something about a text message that you can just shoot off a text message in the heat of the moment.
So with this app, it encourages you to take responsibility for your actions and your communication. So what's your favourite co-parenting app?
My favourite co-parenting app is FAYR, and it's FAYR. It's an acronym, which is Family Advocacy is Your Responsibility.
FAYR.
FAYR.
And it's an app.
It's
Writing
an
that
app.
down right down for myself. It is a fact that older women are the single most rapidly increasing demographic who are at risk of homelessness. And this is commonly due to the death of a spouse or divorce. And that in itself suggests that women traditionally don't understand or have little control over their finances. How can women protect themselves so they don't find themselves in this situation?
Education is key. There's some really great people out there that are really taking big forward steps in educating women on their finances. Melissa Brown is one of them. She has a program which is called My Financial Adulting Plan. She's also got a podcast. Denise Duffield-Thomas is another one. She also has a podcast. She's fantastic. So surround yourself with information. If you have the opportunity, learn prior to separation.
Now, Gwyneth made this term very, very famous. Conscious uncoupling. What is a conscious uncoupling, and is there such a thing as a happy divorce?
Look, there is. If you make a conscious decision to move through this as best as you possibly can, then you're going to be better for it. Hopefully, there is a time where you and your ex can have that conversation early on that these are the ground rules. This is what you want for your divorce. And it's possible to do. It takes a lot of work, and it is certainly not easy. And there'll be moments where you will come off track because nothing's perfect. No one has the crystal ball. If your destination is clear and you want that to be the best that you possibly can, you are always moving forward to that destination, whatever that looks like for you, then it is definitely possible.
That is so refreshing and so reassuring. Thank you so much for your time. For anyone out there contemplating, navigating the terrain that is divorce, can you please give us your website, any details you'd like to share to the public so we can find you?
You can find me at divorceandseparationhub.com. I'm on all the socials at The Divorce Hub, and email is Nikki, NIKKI, at divorceandseparationhub.com.
Thank you so much. As
My
we
absolute
part
pleasure.
ways, let it not be a divorce, but just a brief pause before we meet again. Thank you so much, Nikki. I've had a couple of light bulb moments today. I'm lighting up like a carnival. Thank you so much. Today's podcast for me was a really important reminder that often our restart is prompted by circumstances we don't see coming, that we have no control over, and divorce is case in point. I feel like I've learned a lot from these chats with these two exceptional women. First, allow yourself to be angry. As women, we so commonly feel that we can't be loud, that we can't express our anger, that we're always putting everyone else's needs first. You got to knock that scab off, because until you address the trauma that you are living with, you can never heal. And part of that is respecting yourself, respecting your own fragility. Practice the BIF method that Nikki introduced. Communication that is brief, informative, friendly and firm, and embrace your support network. We all need a cheer squad. The Spice Girls of friends that Helen recommended. I call them the 7 dwarves of divorce, the platter of people who are there for you when you need them most. Divorce is not a dirty word, and love is available in many different forms. It can be the making of you, not the breaking. And if you allow it, happiness, joy will rise. And you know what? It's the best revenge. Thanks for listening to this episode of Restart. We'll be back next week with more. This episode was produced by Emmeline Peterson. The executive producer is Tia Usage. Restart was created by me, Madeleine West, Holly Wainwright and Liz Ratliff. And I'll see you on the Mamamia app.
That was the first episode of our brand new podcast, Restart, hosted by Madeleine West. You can hear the rest of the season where she talks to people who have restarted for all different reasons of health or of sexuality or of losing jobs or reinventing themselves in lots of different ways. So if you want to hear those episodes, search up Restart right now in your podcast app, wherever you're listening to this, and subscribe or follow or whatever it is that you do so that you have got all of the new episodes popping straight into your feed.
Mamamia acknowledges the traditional owners of the land we have recorded this podcast on, the Gadigal people of the Eora Nation. We pay our respects to their elders, past and present, and extend that respect to all Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander cultures.